I teach a class to other hypnotists on weight loss, and the very first thing I tell them, if you think it's all just simply how many calories go in, how many calories go out, you don't know anything about weight loss. There's a lot more going on about weight loss. It's a very complicated. I mean, the medical profession still doesn't fully understand weight loss. It's been since I've been doing hypnosis that they discovered there are hunger hormones. Back in 2000, that's when they discovered hunger hormones. I was already doing weight loss seminars for 3 years.
Welcome to the Career and Faith podcast, where we talk about how your faith and spiritual beliefs guide and fuel your career. I'm your host, Joy Scott, and today we have a special guest. His name is William Mitchell, who is a hypnotist. William, say hello to the people. This is
Hello, hello.
Now, William, there are many things that come to people's minds when they think about hypnotism. Can you explain to us, in your words, what you do?
Well, I help people achieve their goals and ultimately find their ultimate purpose in life.
Ah, so people, normally when they think of hypnosis, they think of people quacking like a duck on stage and doing silly things. But you just opened our eyes that there's a much bigger purpose to hypnosis. So, with this interview, we're going to talk a little bit more about that and really dive into also the faith aspect of for William. But first, let me just share a little bit more about him so you really know the real deal about William. William is a nationally renowned hypnotist. And when I say nationally renowned, I mean he is a nationally known authority on hypnotism. He's a board certified instructor for the National Guild of Hypnotists. He's the founder of the Mitchell Institute for Professional Hypnosis and Personal Motivation Hypnosis Clinics. He's now that's
And
impressive.
and we've been in business here since 2003, and I've actually been doing hypnosis full time since 1997.
Oh, wow. So you really know what you're talking about. And he's contributed so much to the hypnosis community that he was recently awarded count them, 4 awards at 3 conferences for his work. So, William, can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Well, the first one was the Northwest Hypnosis Conference, and I got an award, leader in the field of hypnotism, which I was very honored to get, and it was nice. And then I also went to not really a hypnosis conference; it was really a healthcare hypnosis. It was not a hypnosis conference; it was a healthcare conference in Las Vegas, and I received a influential leader in the field of healthcare award. And then I went to the National Hypnotist Convention in August, and I received Hypnotism and Spirituality Award, but also the Lifetime Achievement Award, which is called the Order of Braid. Dr. Braid was the British doctor who brought hypnotism really out of India into England back in the 1840s, and so the Order of Braid is a Lifetime Achievement Award. So I really was honored to receive both awards, but I wasn't sure I was ever going to get the Lifetime Achievement Award because it's a small group of people who actually receive that award. So,
Wow. Well, congratulations to you on that.
thank you.
And the fact that the awards run through so many different aspects of life, spirituality, healthcare, ministry, because in addition to being a hypnotist, William is also a minister. Be sure to watch till the end for a special gift. Which came first? Was it being a pastor or was it hypnosis?
It's definitely being a pastor. I went through college training for the ministry, and then I went to seminary training for the ministry, and then took churches right after I got out of seminary, and that was my initial. But it was later in life, nearing midlife, when I actually had always done a lot of speaking outside the church on psychological topics, a lot of things like grief recovery, things like that, and I was approached about using hypnosis and mainly to help people lose weight. And at the first, I really was kind of skeptical, and so I called one of the good psychologists who attended my church, and we went to lunch, and I told him what I was looking at, and he says, "Oh, hypnosis is great." He says, "I use hypnosis all the time in my practice. It's not a cure-all, nothing is, but do not be afraid of hypnosis." And so I went ahead and accepted this position with this company where I would help people do weight loss seminars, but it would include a hypnosis session in the seminar. And it immediately people were getting dramatic results. And some of my ministry background, I think, contributed to that because there's a lot of things that are very hypnotic in religion. And I'm not saying that when you go to church, you're getting hypnotized, but the tone of voice, the cadence, and also the very fact that I was talking to a group of people this weekend. If you like the minister, their sermons tend to get better. If you don't like the minister, their sermons are not as good. Well, the same is true in hypnotism. If you trust the person doing the session, you're much more likely to get positive results, as opposed to if you're a little unsure about whether this person is trustworthy or not, you're probably not going to really let go and get the full experience.
Mm, mm. So you talked a little about skepticism there. Let's back that up and talk a little bit about misconceptions. What are some common misconceptions that people have about hypnotism?
I mentioned Dr. Braid when he came from India back to England. That was the first misconception. Immediately, it was named hypnosis because the Greek god of sleep was Hypnos. But Dr. Braid discovered very quickly, within just months, they look asleep, but they don't feel asleep. They're not actually asleep. They're actually very aware. They hear what's going on. So with all my clients, before I ever hypnotize them, I sit them down and I explain to them, you will look asleep. If you want your family member to come in and watch the session, they're certainly welcome to do that. But it'll be very boring to them because it's like watching you sleep. It's not going to be exciting. It's not like a stage show. And so you'll look asleep, but you won't feel asleep. It's actually a form of very highly focused attention. You're very, very focused in hypnosis, but the body is very relaxed and the eyes usually are closed. So many people mistakenly think, oh, they're asleep. And you'll hear that in stage shows. The hypnotist will actually say sleep. Well, they use that word sleep, but they aren't really asleep. Because if they were asleep, they would never hear what the hypnotist is saying and thus would never benefit. Because now in the light stages of sleep, they might hear something, but when you're in deep sleep, you don't hear people. That's why armies sneak up on other armies in the middle of the night while they're asleep, so they don't want to be heard. But so that's a big, big misconception. The other misconception is probably the number one misconception is people think they have to surrender control to the hypnotist. And that is certainly false. No one can be hypnotized against their will to begin with. Now, they might slip into hypnosis without knowing it's happening, especially if they're in an audience and they're not really paying close attention and they're listening, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're in hypnosis. But if they wanted to resist, they could. So you can't hypnotize people against their will. And number two, they've done many, many scientific studies on hypnotism where they've proven the person will not go against their moral code in hypnosis. So if somebody gets on stage and stage show and they take their clothes off, they probably would have done that in their conscious state too.
Well, it's kind of good to know.
But I always joke around with my corporate clients. I'll go in and I'll meet people beforehand. I say, "Oh, it's a clean show. It's gonna be a fun show. Nobody's gonna take the clothes off." And they all laugh. So, and the truth is, you won't do anything against your moral, and you won't do anything to do self-injury as well. They've done a lot of interesting studies on that, where have they have people who are shills, who are plants, they're actors who are supposed to act hypnotized, and they'll give them the suggestion when they open their eyes, they'll walk in a straight line, but they'll put a chair about 8 feet in front of them, and the people who are not really hypnotized, the actors, will always either just sit there and not move, or they'll get up and they'll walk into the chair. But all the hypnotized people do the same thing. They get up, they walk to the chair, go around the chair, and then go back in a straight line. They'll follow the suggestion, but they will not cause self-injury. And that study was done by Dr. Hall many, many years ago, back in the 50s. And it does serve as a great illustration that people will not do anything that would cause self-harm, at least as a result of a suggestion. They would stop.
Okay. So that's good to know. So people, if you're watching and you're wondering, the next time you're at a seminar or you're at one of those shows, if you're going to wind up doing something that's out of your character, well, there you go. But keep in mind, if you got something hidden in your subconscious that you would probably do.
Well, that's another big fear, many misconception. A lot of people say, "Oh, I don't want to get hypnotized. I tell you too many secrets." I said, "Well, one, hypnosis is not a lie detector test. If it was, the police would use it for that purpose, and they don't, because you can lie in hypnosis." And so you still have some control that you never will relinquish. And And people won't tell something that they don't want anybody else to know. They won't reveal their secrets. And I always kid people at stage shows. I said, we really don't want to know that stuff anyway. Keep it to yourself, you know.
Yeah, I've seen on YouTube, I've watched the videos on YouTube of your work, and I've watched the ones where you have hypnotize people for entertainment. Very funny, by the way.
Thank you.
I've also watched the video on your website, hypnoprogram.com, where
Mhm.
you hypnotize the lady to help her stop smoking.
Yes.
Now, that is one I'm going to put the links to all of his videos here in the description so you can watch all of his great work. The one about the lady who wanted to quit smoking, she was skeptical. She didn't think she had actually been hypnotized.
Right.
But what you all will see, and I don't want to give too much away because it's so good, you have to watch it. But she, through the power of auto-suggestion from hypnotism, she cannot smoke. Her body will not allow her, her hand and her mouth will not allow her to smoke. So yes, the closer she tries to bring her hand to her mouth, her hand gets further away. So if you are skeptical as to whether it works, I highly recommend that you watch all the links because William, you're doing great work that I think a lot of people don't know is available to them.
I'm
Now
I'm
also,
kind of known for. There are not a lot of people who are both clinical hypnotherapists and stage hypnotists for a lot of reasons, but I am one of those people that does both, and so I'm kind of known for bringing these techniques from both into the other, and that was actually an example of bringing a stage hypnosis technique into a clinical session because there's this old, it's been around for 100 years. There's this old technique where you're like a summer August county fair and it's 100 degrees, and they'll give someone a glass of water and say, but you have a drinking problem. You can't get the water into your mouth. And they're like trying to drink the water and they're spilling it all over themselves. That's really funny. It's 100 degrees, so it doesn't matter if they get wet. And so I just did that with her with the cigarettes, so she couldn't get the cigarette to her mouth. And so that was, but I do a talk that's really well attended whenever I do it at conferences. It's entitled "Your Clients Want the Wow, the Magic, the Hypnotic Phenomenon." And hypnotic phenomenon looks like magic, but it's not magic. There's nothing magical about hypnosis. There's actually a logic to it, and it's very understandable, and it can be taught, it can be learned, and it can be applied to people's benefit. It's just that in that hypnotic state, the person is highly responsive to suggestion. So people say to me, "Why get hypnotized?" I said, "Well, is there anything you'd like to improve personally about yourself?" Well, most people, unless they're extreme narcissists, most people have something. And I say, well, that's something you get hypnotized for because you can give the person a suggestion and you're more likely to do it. For example, I've never had a weight loss client that didn't know how to lose weight. I've never had a smoker that didn't know how to quit smoking. They quit all the time. They just don't stay quit. But so it's not that they don't know what to do, it's they need the motivation, and the hypnosis suggestions can dramatically increase their responsiveness and motivation, so they're much more likely to follow through and actually achieve the results that they want, which will help them reach that goal.
mm, mm. And you mentioned the word magic. Some people think hypnotism is magic. That goes into my next question. What are some common misconceptions that people have about hypnosis as it relates to Christianity?
Okay, well, the use of the word magic is very appropriate in that question because there are worldviews out there that can be very magical. We all know that, and it was well accepted at the time of Jesus. Most mental health issues, most illnesses, the average person at the time of Jesus thought there was a demon or something. And so there are sects in Christianity that are still very, very scared of demons jumping in or evil spirits, that kind of thing. A very magical worldview. Now, I'm not saying demons don't exist. I'm not saying that evil spirits don't exist, but I am real clear about telling people you don't need to get hypnotized to open up to evil spirits or to demons. They weren't using hypnosis back then to get people, you know, to be how should I say occupied by demons or to do exorcisms. Jesus wasn't hypnotizing people, so that's a false connection. That's a false connection about hypnosis. It's not magical. It is actually very scientific, and it actually is a type of psychology that's been studied extensively and is recognized by the psychological community as an alternative treatment. And matter of fact, the National Institutes of Health have done numerous studies on the efficacy of using hypnosis for certain issues like IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. The research on that is very, very positive, very, very positive. And so, because some of our physical illnesses may have a mental connection, and vice versa. Sometimes our physical illnesses cause a mental result too. And so the mind is certainly a part of the healing process, and our attitudes, our beliefs, they can all affect us. And we know about the extreme negative examples of somebody gets nervous and they go to the doctor, and as soon as the guy with the white coat walks in, their blood pressure goes up. Well, if your mind can make your blood pressure go up, then your mind can make it go down too, and can also do a lot of other things, And so I'm often dealing with people who have anxiety and issues where they really, if they can learn mentally how to control these bodily functions, it really can benefit them as far as their general overall health. So,
Mm.
but there is a lot of fear of magic, and a lot of times people say, "Oh, you're a magician." I say, "No, no, I'm a hypnotist, hypnotherapist. I've never done a magic trick in my life. I've terrible hand dexterity. I'd be terrible." They'd all see what I was doing in magic. Magic is an illusion. Hypnosis is not an illusion. There's no illusion there. Matter of fact, I'm a little critical of some stage hypnotists who use mentalism, which is a form of illusion or magic, in their shows, because I don't want people to misunderstand. No, this is a natural process. Most of us have the ability to experience it at either a lighter or a deeper state. And I want them to see that the stage shows, if somebody, and I've had clients, this one woman, she just was in the crowd, went into hypnosis in the crowd. The stage hypnotist got her up on stage. It wasn't me. And she was amazing. Well, she was a bodybuilder. And so she asked her hypnotist afterwards when it was all over. She goes, "Well, I'm obviously really good at hypnosis. Could it help my bodybuilding?" He goes, "Oh, absolutely. I know who to refer you to." And so he referred her to me, and she did fantastic. She was 48 years old, and we helped her with, particularly with the dieting, because they have to get so shredded, right? And she was not a young woman. She was 48 years old at the time. And in the upcoming event, which was it was a golds competition, she won both her weight class and the overall. And she's a lightweight, and lightweights never win the overall. It's usually the bigger, taller people who win the overall. But she won it because she was just shredded. I mean, she looked so good. But her hypnotic ability was amazing. I'd be working with her, and I'd be watching her while I was working with her, and I'm just going, wow, she is. Some people are just incredible hypnotic subjects.
Wow, wow. Now, earlier we were talking about people really being able to trust the hypnotist, and that being a big part of
Yes.
actually being able to be hypnotized.
Yes.
And in an earlier conversation that we had off camera, you were talking about basically how, you can judge people by their fruits, like the fruit of their spirit, basically. They kind of help you decide if that's the right hypnotist for you. So can you speak a little bit more about that?
Well, I get asked a lot about, as a Christian, how can you do hypnosis? I said, well, Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 7, you will know the false prophets by their fruits, and if you're producing good fruits, they're obviously not a false prophet. And I always say, well, what am I doing? Well, I help people lose weight. Is that a good thing? Well, for most people, it is. I help people stop smoking. Is that a good thing? Yes, again, for their health, it usually is. I help people change, negative behaviors into positive behaviors. Again, is that a good fruit? Same thing when I do my shows. I only do clean comedy. I help mainly, these schools where they have these lock-ins where they keep the kids overnight so they won't be out driving and drunk and kill themselves. And then we do fun stuff. It's all clean humor. And once again, is that a good fruit? So I say to people, I'm not doing anything that's associated with the occult. I'm not doing anything that's associated with the dark arts. I'm not doing anything that would go against the spirit of Christ in any way. And so, are these good fruits? And generally, people say, yeah, those are good fruits. And I get a lot of Christian clients who will come to me just because they know I am a Christian minister. And so they feel more comfortable. Now, to be honest with you, sometimes their version of Christianity and my version of Christianity are quite different, but the basic trust is there that I'm not going to do anything that would go against the Spirit of Christ, the Holy Spirit. And so I really, I benefit from that. Now, I've worked with many Jewish clients. I've worked with many atheist clients. I mean, just like a medical doctor, my whole thing is if you have a need and you come, I'm going to do my best to help you. You don't have to have any religious background at all, as far as I'm concerned. But if someone does have that, with their permission and only with their permission, I will sometimes weave into the session some of their belief systems, and that can be very powerful because they already hold that belief system, and now you're making it part of their session, and it really can be tremendous. Yes.
Wow, that is awesome. See, there's way more to hypnotism than people realize.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Now, you have been devoting your life to helping people overcome challenges
Mhm.
and weave in their faith and just transform their lives. In your life and in your career, what challenges have you experienced that, maybe you had to really dig into your faith to overcome and move through?
You mean my own personal situation?
Mhm.
Well, there have been times of failure in my life. There have been times when I've fallen short, and certainly that resilience that comes from believing in forgiveness, believing that you can start over again and do better the next time. That God can help you, and you can ask God for that help. Certainly helps. And I think there are times when in those spiritual moments when you maybe hit a dark time in your life. You can find guidance and strength and inspiration and motivation. And the belief is that, no matter what has happened, God can use even our darkest moments to help other people, because someone who's been to prison can tell someone else who's in prison about how they came through it. Someone who's done something terrible or had something terrible happen to them. People lose children. They don't want to go on with their life, but yet they can share this with other people. And I think that faith is filled with stories of people who they've met the darkness and they've overcome the darkness because they can follow the light. And we talk about, Jesus, the light of the world. And that's my own personal faith coming out now, the Christian faith. But I respect people from whatever. I've had Hindu clients. I've worked a lot with the medical community, and many people in the medical community come from other countries, and they come here to practice in the United States, and they often have a very different worldview. And you kind of have to work with their worldview respectfully, and understand that the light can come in many ways and to many people.
Mm, that's so good. That's so good. What is the most rewarding part of what you do?
Well, a lot of people who do counseling and that type of thing, they really hope at the end of the day they've helped someone. But what I do is I kind of specialize in habit control. And so at the end of the day, I know if someone has lost weight or not. I know if someone stopped smoking or not. I know if somebody's biting their fingernails or not. And so it really is rewarding to walk out saying, "Hey, I've made a difference." Now, the same thing on the spiritual side, in ministry, you know, um, they're just you can see the changes in people's lives sometimes from what you're teaching or what you're helping them with. And so that's eternally rewarding. And you can, especially when you work with young people, which I really enjoy doing. You can see them as they develop, and maybe their life was going this way and now it's going the right way.
Oh, wow. Wow. So it's great that you have the ability to help with not just adults, but also teens, because it's very important, to get that early intervention. So when people find out that you are a hypnotist,
Mhm.
what is the first question they wind up asking you?
Well, and many hypnotists would give you the same answer I would share. It's so amazing. People go, "Oh, does that really work?" And I just laugh and I said, "No, for 20 some years I've been cheating people out of their money. It doesn't work." No, I just laugh. I said, "Of course it works." I said, I've had my clinic in Springfield, Illinois since 2003. So for over 21 years I've been here helping people. And when you deal in weight and smoking, if you don't get results, they don't refer people. If you don't get results, people don't come. And so you might fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. It's just So if you've been in the weight loss industry, just in the short time I've been here, 20 some years, I've probably seen 10 weight loss businesses come and go. What I mean? Come and go. But my business has stood the test of time because, you know, I don't try to tell people something unrealistic. I don't ever tell them they're going to get results that are impossible. I just tell them, most people are going to lose, depending on their body weight, about 4% of their body weight they can lose in about a month. So if you're 200 pounds, you can lose 2 pounds a week for a while until you get down to 150. It's going to slow down a little bit. And the same thing for bigger people, smaller people. And I'm realistic, and I say, if hypnosis in research shows you don't lose weight faster with hypnosis, but you're more likely to keep it off. because, and that is the big problem with weight loss. 95% of the American population, when they lose a lot of weight, meaning 10% or more of their body weight, if they lose not 10% or more, 95% of people are going to gain the weight back. Only 5% keep the weight off. But several different research studies on hypnosis, the likelihood of keeping the weight off is much greater because it was a mental change versus just a behavioral change. You've got to put the behavioral and the mental together. And because the same things that helped you lose weight, you have to keep doing to keep the weight off.
Hmm.
Because you know it is,
Hmm.
people lose weight and they go, "Oh, now I can have pie again. Now I can have, whatever it is they want to eat, And well, yeah, a little bit, but not too much. Because some people just their metabolism, there's all kinds of reasons people are overweight, and it's not all just simply calories. There's lots of things going on, and I teach a class to other hypnotists on weight loss, and the very first thing I tell them, if you think it's all just simply how many calories go in, how many calories go out, you don't know anything about weight loss. There's a lot more going on about weight loss. It's a very complicated. I mean, the medical profession still doesn't fully understand weight loss. It's been since I've been doing hypnosis that they discovered there are hunger hormones. Back in 2000, that's when they discovered hunger hormones. I was already doing weight loss seminars for 3 years. We didn't know about hunger hormones. Things like Ozempic are meant to address the hunger hormones. See? So now it's changed a lot with the gastric bypasses, the medications like Ozempic, and you have to keep up on these things. But there's always going to be a component of behavior change, and the mind can help with the behavior change. And when you use hypnosis, you're helping the mind reframe, think about things in a way that's different and hopefully very, very helpful.
Ah, okay. So there's so much more that I know you could unpack about hypnosis.
Especially weight loss. It's a
Yeah.
huge topic. Yeah, huge.
So what haven't I asked you that you think is important for people to know about your career, about the field of hypnosis?
Well, as a Christian, it has really been a wonderful gift to me and to my churches that I can do hypnosis because it has allowed me to make a very honest living helping people and yet make the kind of money that I make so I can still serve smaller churches. When I was younger, I had larger churches, but I had to be full time at the church. Now, the church I serve is a wonderful church. It's in a college town. Half of my church are either faculty or staff at the college, and every Sunday I get up to preach to at least 5 PhDs. And but but I can serve this smaller church. We run about 55 people on Sunday mornings. I can serve this smaller church because I make my own income doing hypnotism, and then they pay me what they pay me. But it's not a full time salary, and right now they're just not large enough to really pay a full time minister. And more churches across the country are experiencing that. And I've actually trained a number of ministers and two different rabbis in hypnotherapy for exactly that reason, because many times they find that the churches are finding it more and more difficult to support a full-time minister or rabbi.
Well, it's great that you can be a minister and it's fully out of purpose. You don't have to worry about the bills because you have another way of making money that's also, like you said, an honest, decent living and
Right.
also impacts people's lives in a wonderful way. So, where can people learn more about you?
Well, you mentioned a couple websites, which I appreciate you putting up there. The one for my clinic is hypnoprogram.com, and I can see people on Zoom, and I'm finding that I'm getting the same results on Zoom as I do in my office, because actually in my office, I don't touch anyone anyway. There's a recliner, there's a table, and then I'm on the other side of the table, and all my techniques are using the voice, always using the voice. So Zoom seems to work just as well as in the office. And then, of course, if they're interested in the stage hypnosis, it's called Clean Hypno, Hypno shows plural.com, clean hypno shows, dot com. And I might add to, a lot of people have copied my URL and made slight changes in the stage hypnosis because it is a great trademark to have. That's the clean hypnotist, because some people in their mind think of dirty shows, which actually until I was in my 40s, I thought of dirty shows too. I'd never seen a clean show, and I saw a guy do a clean show, and I immediately got his business card and said, "Hey, I'd like to learn how I can do a clean show. I can't do a dirty show." It just didn't fit with me, and so and it is more respectful, like what I do with people, and so Anyway, so they can find me at those websites, and then I do have a school site. You mentioned Mitchell Institute, and it's .com, just mitchellinstitute.com. And I do have an 800 number if anyone wants to use that one. It's 800-662-3040, 800-662-3040. A lot of my friends say, why do you keep that 800 number? Because you can call free on a cell phone. You know, you can call free almost anywhere. And I said, well, just something about an 800 number. People like to call it 800 number. And so I make it's not a big charge every month.
So wonderful ways to get in touch with you, multiple ways to get in touch with you. One last question that just popped into my mind. Can you hypnotize yourself, William?
People often do, and some people are better at that than others. I would I think that all of us do a version, like you mentioned, auto suggestion or some sort of self hypnosis. A lot of us do it without knowing we're doing it. For the people who know what they're doing and they're really good at it, it is amazing to watch people do some incredible things with their mind and their body using self hypnosis. I'm really more of a specialist in what's called hetero hypnosis, which is where another person is hypnotizing the other person. That's more my specialty and what I'm really the best at. But I'm in awe of those people who are really great at self hypnosis. I do think a lot of athletes very naturally and spontaneously are practicing self hypnosis, especially pre-game, pre-contest, and they get so focused and everything else disappears and they're just right there. And that's very much what it's like in hypnosis. The person in hypnosis, they hear the hypnotist, but they often will screen out everything else going on around them.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
if there was some danger, like a fire alarm or something, their conscious mind would recognize that and they'd come out. But I always tell people, if there's no danger, you're just gonna basically be focused on my voice, and they usually are, and they're amazingly focused on that voice.
Wow.
A really famous hypnotist had a famous saying, and it eventually became a book. He was a psychiatrist, Milton Erickson. And, you know, we all of us in hypnotherapy owe a lot to Milton Erickson, but he had a book entitled "My Voice Will Follow You." Yeah, and see, he'd give them a post hypnotic suggestion, which would stay with them, and then at the right time, that voice would come back to them. See,
Wow.
my voice will follow you because they're so focused on that voice, and it's almost like they were hearing that part of the hypnosis. That little bitty piece of hypnosis would come back to them. Yeah, at the right moment, just the right moment.
Wow. So there's definitely a lot for people to be able to research. The science is out there. William is an excellent resource. I've visited all of his websites. So William, I thank you so much for taking the time to be a guest on this initial episode of the Career and Faith podcast. And everyone, please make sure you visit the links in the description where you'll find all the information to get to William and to perhaps help yourself with some goals that you may have. So thank you so much, William.
Well, and I'm really thank you, and I'm really pleased you're doing this series of podcasts, and God be with you.
If you're considering changing careers or you know someone who is, this guide is for you. I'm unlocking key questions to know the answer to before you change careers. And it's totally free. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, click the link in the description. On Instagram, check the bio. To your betterment, Joy Scott. See you next episode.